I don't know what are you going to say in Sesotho if you don't have it. But in words, terms that we do not have.
Colleagues, please lend him your
sorry.
ear. Please lend him your ear because
Words that we do not have in our languages, we transliterate them. I will use the example of Ilanduka of isiZulu for the term experience, a simple term. And isiXhosa, we have an equivalent term for that term to say unamava, but Zulus preferred to use ispilion. But when I articulate the term experience, kumzulu, they understand me. So the strategies and mechanism of coming with terms and pencil standardize them to be official. The last question that I wanted to deal with is the question, what are we going to do with the blind and inclusive schooling and so on, because these learners who are inclusive education are coming from communities where isiXhosa, isiSotho is spoken. But because they cannot speak, we're using a sign language. So the debate here is whether a sign language for umdana othetha isiXhosa nothetha isiSotho is standard, or we have different versions of sign languages. This is where we're going to engage. So this process of standardizing, making words official, we're going to debate them with you. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think we must not misinterpret what the colleague has said. Ne? The colleague was moving on the basis, was giving the advice on the basis that there is no Sesotho word for flexible. Again, kere advice anarefayona are you can now try to we will into na o ka sebedisa ntole translation is jwang mare kere ona a move from a premise ya hore ho to ha ona flexible ha iyo ka Sesotho hore na re ka etsang now that flexible ha iyo ka Sesotho ga utlwana ngake ha wa mmamela o tla faila hobane ke dumellana le wena hore flexible teng ka Sesotho mare yena ona advice a motho a re flexible ha iyo ka Sesotho hore in that circumstance more flexible e leng siyo ka Sesotho o etsa jwang hore o kgone yes la bona king the distinction a di no tswa ka mona. Doctor, we are in your hands.
Colleagues, thank you very much. One of the things that we must do, I have said to Mr. Monso, I'll come back, because we must deal with things that maybe don't seem so obvious now to us. When we say we must use the example of Afrikaans, it's not a mistake. We have a lot to learn from that process. And the learning process has to do with what we call terminologies, vocabulary development, and the process is called corpus planning. There are 4 pillars of language policy planning. The one is status planning. When you speak about status planning, we are speaking about the statutes, the laws, and the policy landscape. And I think Dr. Khalane has tried to talk about what it is that are pillars, because we are covered in terms of the law with policies that have been developed and promulgated. So we are not short of policies. That's the one pillar. But the implementation of those policies has not happened. And I think this is important for people to understand. When we say that school governing bodies, and in the case of Brantford, I'm not sure whether it's Brantford. Yes. The DBE has developed what we call e-forms. And the e-forms are sent to all provinces, and the HOD definitely will get his e-form because Omapola have sent it out. The information that is needed to determine which language for which children, you can't do that just by feeling that they are 20 and they are 30. We must do an audit. how many children in your school and what languages do they speak? So that the SGBs in terms of the law, because remember what Section 6 of the South African Schools Act says, and everybody, particularly some circuit managers, always say, hi, SGBs are the ones that are not trying to transform or willing to transform, and they make excuses about school governing bodies. It is the role of officials to try to explain and to guide SGBs, because in terms of the law, your May allocation, Section 6 says, school governing bodies may determine the language policy of the school, but it says something very important, subject to the Constitution, national laws, and any provincial laws. So you're not supposed to have a language policy in any school that is against the spirit of the Constitution. You can't have that. So let's not make excuses about SGBs when we are not doing our job to support schools. It's important that the management and governance and curriculum specialists explain to SGBs, because if you have what we call a language demographic or data about that school saying to you, in this school there are 20 children. In terms of the Language and Education Policy Act, it gives you a number that if you have less than 35 or 40 requests, the head of department must make sure that those children have access to some form of making sure that it's a language maintenance program. What do I mean? It does not necessarily mean that those children are going to be taught in Sesotho while they are Siswati. But we must have a program as government to make sure that they don't lose their language because this school is an African school. That is the responsibility of government. So I'm saying to you, colleagues, it does not mean, therefore, that the number of children in that school, because they are Xhosa, AmaZulu, AmaSwati, we are going to offer all those subjects in the mother tongue. But it means that the HOD has a responsibility to do what we call a language maintenance program so that those children don't lose their language. They might not be a majority in Free State because they speak isiSwati, but the majority language of isiSwati in another province, in Mpumalanga, must feed this child. And that's why DBE will have a website of materials to support this child. It's not about whether this school can offer. But before we get to that decision, there must be stats that support how many children, what is the language proficiency of teachers in that school. So the e-form is going to solve most of your problems. And the decision of the SGB must be based on what you can offer. If you need any assistance, that is the responsibility of the HOD to ensure. Remember, the head of department, the principal of the school represents the head of department. So you can't have two centers of power at a school run by SGBs and a school run by the principal. There's one accounting officer in the school. And that accounting officer makes sure that where you can't provide, you make it a point that you escalate so that the department can see what to do with that. I always say to provinces, and this is what we did in the Eastern Cape, use those teachers who are on pillar, use those additional educators, and in the province you can have a provincial proclamation that says you protect the additional educators to be deployed in schools where they will offer those languages if they are qualified. You can sort out your own problems in the province by making sure that if a school does not offer isiXhosa, because you can't, the PPN does not allow, that teacher can rotate, that teacher can come to that school, that teacher can be deployed there and make sure that they offer isiXhosa across the grades. So both for IAL and MTBBE, you need that. The third thing I wanted to raise is that I am usually offended by schools who offer African language as a second additional language for everyone. It is an offense. It's a language violation. If when you speak Afrikaans or English and you can do isiSotho itself, that's fine. That's for you. But for the child who is Sotho speaking, because they are in an ex-model school, you can't say everybody must do SAL. Because second additional language has no impact on promotion and progression. So if you want that child, it is important that when we speak about a transformative constitutional state, we mean exactly that. That you make steps to ensure that with this, my child is going to have Afrikaans SAL, and then their Sesotho becomes the home language or the FAL. We have models. I was saying to Munjo, I will come for the models. What we did in the Eastern Cape, there are schools like O'Dale College. There are sports schools. So they usually take children from the rural areas who are not good in English, but who can play sports well. We have a model in that school. They have home language English, they have home language Xhosa, and they have Afrikaans file. Because those children must pass after playing all that sport. You can't only worry about the fact that they must get these bursaries and be good sportsmen when you know that they are not English home language speakers. So up to grade 12, they have home language, 2 home languages, and you can. Nothing stops you from doing that. That is the role of the SGB. Whatever policy must be created by the SGB must be based on the linguistic dynamics of children. You can, colleagues. Thirdly, I wanted to answer that question about where do they go. You see, when Afrikaans was developed, there was an outcry that it was a bastard or a Gombe style. The language was denigrated, particularly by Afrikaans, by Dutch speakers. It was called a bastard of Dutch, and nobody believed. And if you can wake up in the grave those people now, they will be shocked that this is a language of higher education. So you will get people who do not believe that if you teach in Afrikaans, you will still speak English. So you have questions like, where will they go, these children, if they learn photosynthesis in Sesotho? We are always going to have that, because when a language has not been used yet, all these questions are going to come up. That period of English is not going to go anywhere. So if a child learns photosynthesis in Xhosa, it does not mean they will not know what it is, because the model that Dr. Chetty presented in grades 4, it's 80% of the home language and 20% in English. It's a bilingual classroom. In grades 5, it's 70% of the home language and 30% English. In grade 6, it's 60-40, and in grades 5, it's 50-50. There's a major difference between pure mother tongue education, which occupies itself with the rights of the child to their home language, and there's what is called mother tongue-based bilingual education, whose objective is making sure that while the child learns and uses their language to learn, they also acquire the other language. That is the basic difference. So there is no point when these children are not going to survive in the working space because they've learned maths in Sesotho. I always get colleagues understand the process that you must go through. And that process is what I called earlier on, what is in the mind. You can't have the workforce and the workplace and private sector ensuring that as they appoint, their interviews are ready in all languages if the basic education sector has not started. We need to give that guidance, and that's why we are starting. And that is why now, as we make sure that multilingualism is the norm, as the Constitution says, then we are starting a movement in the whole system. And that's why we meet higher education and we tell them that you've done very little to transform. It is you who have kept things with only 2 languages. And nobody wants to be accused of systemic racism. We do it even if we do not, sometimes we are not aware or we want to keep things. It's called the status maintenance syndrome. So I'm saying to you, colleagues, when we speak about these issues, we must not be afraid to address the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is our own minds, because we are going to be coming up with all these things as if they have not been sorted. We know with the Afrikaans children that having mother tongue education is the best thing. And this is why they must protect it. What do we do, Tina? When Stellenbosch wants to offer Afrikaans, we fight that everybody must be English. That is not the solution. Actually, we are the ones who are supposed to be fighting for African languages, and not English everybody. Because all of you have different languages, therefore everybody must have English. There is no such a thing. It's not constitutional. So I'm saying to you, we must understand and accept that we might not be the national party government, take money off the state and only develop one language. But there are lessons to be learned from that. And this is what we are doing to say, all children in the system must learn. And while they are learning, other parts of the system are going to move, including higher education, including the private sector, and so on. Lastly, the foundation phase is a good example for us. Everyone here has gone through the foundation phase, and not a single one of us has gone through mother tongue education at higher education institutions, and yet we produce children who are performing with bachelors and distinctions in the foundation phase because of teacher agents. The spirit of the teacher has made sure that those children finish the foundation phase with those results. So they have not been trained by anybody. They are doing it on their own. Now we're saying, teachers are doing it already. How do we supplement what they have? It's not like, because spirit sabo, they want the best thing for their children. I want the colleagues, people, one of the things that people are raising is, what are we saying about Model C schools? Because it's almost as if this is meant for black children and to keep them where they are at. And I want to answer that question because it's a question that most people don't like a HOD to talk about. When we speak about transforming the system, we mean everyone. But the phases of implementation will depend on where is it most urgent. Because as a system, you can't do everything at the same time. Otherwise, we mess up everything. Now, there are two things that affect schools that are mainly English and Afrikaans. It is the issue of language levels, and I've spoken to that already. We need to see movement there. We need to make sure that children there, their languages are being catered for in those models and use that model of rotation in other things. Secondly, is the issue of making sure that there are language maintenance programs. Thirdly, if a school offers 2 languages, you are violating. It's a language violation. We had said even in 2013 that all schools must offer a minimum of 3 languages. That is what the Act 12 says. So can we please make sure, colleagues, that when we speak about transformation, we mean that as well. Nkosi.
A round of applause for Dr. Mbude Mehana. I'm just worried she's got a plane to catch. You can see she has got energy and passion. Yeah, Mr. Munsu, we're going to call you again. Mr. Munsu will tell you. Mr. Munsu, you can sweep. And colleagues, thereafter, it will be Mr. Moloi. My job ends here. Thank you for being such a wonderful crowd. It has been such a privilege working with you. Thank you, Free State.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, HOD. Dr. Mbude, the passion. Ne? Colleagues, let me start first by saying I had to release the teachers, SGB members from other districts. But I consulted with the HOD as well as the MEC to say, colleagues, you would have to go back because of the capacity of this hall. SASRIA does not allow. SASRIA Act makes sure that when you hire a building, it cannot be filled to the brim. We have made a commitment that Mezonge, that Chuta in the form of Mkosana, so that we are going to have these 2 sessions in Lijualipuzo and Fesile Dabi, as well as in TVET, to cater for those teachers who have said they must go back. So we are responsible leadership. We'll arrange, Dr. Mbude would be here, Dr. Halani will be there, they will all be here. That's why I've allowed them to leave. And our regards and appreciation to them. The first thing first, colleagues, the issue of the language unit, it has been in our discussions forever, including the issuing of official circulars in at least 3 languages. It is now 6. The HOD has said, I must mention that that unit, PENSALP has been on our case, Dr. Halani is now gone, around the use of other languages. That is why in our secondary school and primary schools competition, it's there. Making sure that our language are already been supported as part of the provincial competition of language. PENSAP is always there. We are giving you assurance as the attendants that indeed the call by the minister are going to establish the language unit in the Free State province. The second issue is that we are going to make sure that for those teachers who were here, who left earlier, there will be a similar approach to them. The second issue is that how implement next year? One colleague there raised an important issue around the language level of teachers. Both the maths and the NST languages, we're going to make sure that in the province, it's first a form to identify the level of readiness at a school level before a school can now start to teach in Sesotho, Maths, and English file. That's first step. Second step, we'll make sure that the teachers who are teaching there, it's easy for them. If they speak Sesotho, Mezonke, then we can support them. Because if they don't, they speak another language, it will be a challenge. But we'll make sure that the teachers, our learners in particular, are not compromised. From that, I can tell you I'm aware there is available LTSM from the Eastern Cape for Sesotho and isiZulu, but Sesotho will start with Sesotho. It's available. Remember, the HOD doesn't allow any school in the province. You apply this year before September to add additional subject or the grade. The HOD approves because it goes alongside the PPN and readiness. So the same here, it does not mean when you apply, we'll implement. We're going to check your state of readiness and support you accordingly so that the minister's vision in terms of this advocacy, it's attained. The last point from our side, in 2 weeks' time, we'll issue out a proper circular after we have consulted with the three other districts, firstly Derby and TVET, as well as with Lejoli Putswa. So that when the circular comes out, everybody is on board on what the department is going to do. As Chikilana, we are proceeding, we are going to implement. The last important point, Dr. Reddy, Dr. Chetty, around the program of assessment. When it comes to curriculum, colleagues, having the program of assessment, LTSM, those are important indicators of successful implementation that would never compromise in the Free State Province. Colleagues, thank you very much.
Colleagues, good day. Thank you very much, Program Director, our HOD Advocate Malakwane, for the opportunity. We truly appreciate it. Let me, HOD, indicate that, as the Free State, we truly appreciate this opportunity and then to be hosting this August occasion. Truly appreciate it. HOD, it just reminded me of what once the great Nelson Mandela said about the language. He said, if you speak to a person in any language that the person understands, the message goes to the head. But if you speak to the person in his or her own language, that is mother tongue, the message goes to the heart. Therefore, today, this endeavor has given the heart to basic education. Thank you very much. Program Director HOD, let me start by thanking you for the able manner in which you have delivered today's assignment. And then you have enabled, in a manner that is very helpful, that has saved us time, that has instilled discipline and purpose for this occasion. Thank you very much, HOD, for the manner in which. Can we give our HOD a big round of applause? You can tell in the manner in which he was commanding discipline, order, and purpose that he is a true advocate. Thank you, HOD. I think it is also very important for us collectively as the Free State to applaud, to acknowledge our Honorable Minister for making the right decision, for ending her, tenure in the Free State when it comes to stakeholder engagement, as she indicated. The minister could not have chosen the right place. The Free State, top, province in every aspect of education. We have got the finest in the education space, Dr. Chetty. The finest in the education space, you'll find them in the Free State. We thank our minister for the message and then for the embrace, for her leadership and for her support. And we, as the Free State, we know that she is going to be a permanent resident in the Free State. She is going to be a permanent visitor to the Free State, even if she may not be in the education portfolio. To us, she is a mother, she is a leader. Can we give her a big round of applause? You know, our MEC, Honorable MEC, Ntate Mohale, thank you very much, MEC in absentia, for your leadership and support. HOD, the two of you have made it possible for us as the Free State to understand that we are not a secondary school department. We are not a grade 12 department, but we are basic education department for all the grades. Therefore, introducing this mother tongue, and then especially next year, it is really now complementing and then what our leaders are saying. To say, if you want an excellent end, you must have a good start. The foundation needs to be concrete, and then we can't ignore primary schools. Hence, and then this focus today, we truly appreciate. And then that is why, and then as the Department of Education, we really understand the losses that we are experiencing throughout the system. And then the lack of, you know, enthusiasm, passion from the stakeholders, because we are not talking to their hearts. We are talking to them, to their own blood and flesh in English and Afrikaans. Therefore, today, we are just bringing that heart. You could even see during the engagements that, you know, the parents, our SGBs are very passionate because they understand that education is a national issue, is a national asset. Thank you very much to our MEC. Colleagues, let me come to the organizing team at national level and provincial level by Fredericks. Thank you very much for your hard work for putting together this huge task, very successful. Team communications, and then at national level led by Ntate Mhlanga, and then in the province by Ntate Ndaba, and then that's why we have got the media today, top notch. Let me also now look at the colleagues who are in the programs, in the program from our learners, from Relebelezi. You know, the citation of the preamble is an indication of patriotism, of selflessness, of understanding that, and then they are true South African. They don't have any other country. This is their only country. Ihobe, you know, the manner in which they demonstrated their skills is really an indication that as a department, there's something good that we are doing. We are instilling knowledge, we are instilling skills and the right attitude to our learners. We really applaud them. You can give them a big round of applause. In the interest of time, colleagues who are featured in the program, there is just one thing about them. They were not just stating the facts. They were not just stating the facts. They were arguing a particular point. They were convincing us to understand that for us to be true to ourselves, we must accept our origin. Thank you very much for the able manner in which you have put together convincing arguments, and then we are converted. We understand that our mother tongue comes first. Thank you very much for everyone, for the manner in which we have contributed in the program. But my last and best acknowledgement comes to you colleagues who are here today. Team Basic Education from national and then in the province, in the circuits, at school level, you have just been very fantastic. And then the colleague from the Eastern Cape, the lessons learned, and then we'll also be training with you so that we should be able to implement this even better. And then all of you, the questions that you were asking today are an indication that education is a collective and an issue. We cannot, as the Department of Education, run education on our own without your input. Hence, in education HOD, we have got, everyone is an expert. You may be a professor, you may be a doctor, you may be, a specialist, but the parents, the community members, when it comes to their own children, when it comes to their language, they're an expert. Therefore, together, we will form a formidable team when we implement that in the Free State. I thank you. I've been given another task. Colleagues. We have come to an end. You have really been phenomenal. And then I'm told that everyone is going to be served a meal. You should not worry. Yeah? What you need to do is to remain seated here, and then let's allow the entourage, which will be led by Ndate Monso here, because the other principals have left. The HOD, okay, they will follow Ndate Fontaine. And then the entourage, the colleagues from DBE, from the other provinces, and the colleagues who were in the holding room in the morning. There is going to be another debriefing. There was a briefing in the morning. There will be a deep briefing there. If you can just follow Ndate Ramelezi here, and then Ndate Fontaine will be leading us to the debriefing room. Ne? All the others remain seated. I think I'm going to invite someone who have got the finer details, ne? All the other information, just to come to the stage. Can we allow the HOD, can we allow the HOD and the other colleagues just to walk up? We can give them that honor by standing up. Ne? Yes, thank you, HOD, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, you right, please don't leave, because you are going to be served your meals here. Right. I'm told that all the chief directors, the DG, the directors, my colleagues from the other districts, the CESs, you must also join the debriefing session. The CESs. Thank you very much, colleagues. I'm handing over now to Ndate Khobe to give the other details. Thank you.
All right, re leboa baeso, re tla kopa re dule fatshe, re tla re latwa ke di ashara, mme ba tla re jwentsha rona re jella o kae. Ke tla kopa re dule fatshe, mme di ashara tla di re lata, di re isa mo re tlang re fuwa dijo teng. Re bangata jwale ba tlameha ba renke ka dihlopha hanyane ho etsetsa bonnete ba hore ha re ba ke stampede. Ke tla kopa all the DCESs as well setting di latele moghupi o tswileng, all the DCESs, all the deputy chief education specialists. Messi pubi ki bona o dutse mamela molao wa ka, ke a leboha. All the deputy chief education specialists as well. Mpho, director, all the DCSs. Selector, o ka nna wa nna re otlela lehlaso ha ntse re nkuwa jwalo ka sehlopha ka sehlopha.